Hi, I'm Michelle Blue. I'm a millennial entrepreneur and started a business just 2 weeks after I graduated college. It's my life and I don't even know. Okay, each week I'm interviewing an entrepreneur, getting a real look at their stories, the lessons, the sacrifices along their journey.
And leadership is hard, and you have to live at home, and entrepreneurship is not easy.
Truly walk by faith and not by sight, and your life being a direct reflection of that belief system.
So, for the fellow entrepreneur, hopeful entrepreneur, or whatever path you decided to take in life, just know that the beauty lies within the journey.
Watching?
The journey.
The journey. All right, I'm going to leave you watching. All right.
Condoning negative energy around.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's so funny. So I love that we're here in this moment right now, Antonio, because we met at the Build Your Own Brand conference in May. And I don't even know how I got to you. I think because my hair was like poofing up and you were like, oh, your hair looks good. And I was like, what? Somebody thinks my hair looks good? I said, my hair looks crazy. And you said something to me and I can't quite remember, but I was like, Noemi, we have to go speak with this guy. I was like, we have to interview him. And after our conversation, like your words just stuck with me. Like
that's amazing.
the presence, the energy that you brought, the words that you spoke into my life, I was like, he's awesome. I was like, I had to somehow like stay connected to Antonio. I had to share your story because I just was like, he's so great. And then I started following you on social media as well. And I was like, the thoughts that you're sharing with people, I was like, this has to be told, right?
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So definitely love your brand. And backtracking again, it's interesting because we have switched places in this life. You're originally from New York but moved to Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta. I have moved to New York. So you were also giving me some like life tips through that.
Yes, through that transitioning process.
Through that transition. Yeah. And we're in similar spaces. You started a streetwear brand, Level 13. Give me the rundown on that.
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, I started a fashion brand for men called Level 13. And I actually started it in New York City, and people thought I was crazy. They were like, "You don't have no schooling or experience in fashion. You know, how are you going to start a fashion brand?" But I was filled with so much passion. I remember I went on Google and I put in how to start a footwear brand because I started in footwear before I got into apparel. And this link came up on Google, and I started following it, and lo and behold, the universe started conspiring in my favor because all the people I needed to help me move this dream forward started coming into my life.
Yeah.
And it's just been such an amazing experience. I mean, I ended up moving to Atlanta. And again, people are like, you're crazy. Why would you leave the fashion capital of the world here in the United States and go to Atlanta, Georgia? And I was like, well, my
they were
spirit.
Like, what's the fashion in Atlanta? What does that look like?
Yeah, but my spirit was guiding me and I didn't question it. And I moved with my spirit. And honestly, it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life because I've been able to do so many great things. The brand is inside of Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom's. I mean, Jason Derulo's my business partner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa,
Jason Derulo's
cool.
my business partner. So it's been, just a really amazing experience to truly walk by faith and not by sight. And your life being a direct reflection of that belief system. Because you hear people talking about it all the time. But to actually live it and for your actions to be a reflection of that in which you seek in your life, I think there's so much power in that. And that's why on Instagram you say, I bring some of my inspiration there, is because I want people to understand the reality of the fact that we create the world we live in.
Right.
We give it power and permission to exist every day. So by walking by faith and not by sight, and my actions being a reflection of that, I'm manifesting the world I want to live in.
Right.
And it's really interesting just to be able to inspire other people to see it and understand the power that lies within themselves.
Right. And I think that's interesting because I think most people don't quite get that because you allowed energy to guide you and not logic to guide you, right? Because again, I'm like, you came to Atlanta for a fashion company? Like, what? Like,
Right.
you know, of course we have, I don't even know what fashion we have here, but not from here.
No, actually, Atlanta's a really big market for luxury goods. I
Different.
mean, and I think it's because it's so entertainment based here with rappers and singers, and just TV now is really big here. So of course,
Right. That's
they
true.
normally flock to fashion and fashion that's exclusive. So the luxury industry that I'm a part of, it's very vibrant here in Atlanta, and not a lot of people know that unless you live here.
Right.
You wouldn't really know that because people think that fashion is just New York City,
Right.
and I've shown that no, you can have a real brand that is here in the heart of Atlanta and be successful doing it.
Right. Very cool. Earlier you quoted, I don't know if people call it The Alchemist, right? And was when you can repeat it again. When you start moving, well, the universe will conspire in your favor, essentially, right?
Yes.
And that's what happened to you. You said you made the Google search, and from there you put it out in the atmosphere of what you wanted, and that's when doors started opening.
Yeah.
So, like, some people call it like the corridor principle. It's like once you actually step foot into your purpose and what you're supposed to do, doors will open along the way. You can call it blessings, you can call it whatever the case may be. How did you attract these things into your life? You know, because people are like, well, I Google stuff every day and I didn't see, this and that come into my life. It didn't align so easily. What do you think? How did you attract these things and manifest it into reality, into, your actual space?
So very interesting, right? First of all, The Alchemist was the first book I've ever read. Paulo Coelho is one of my favorite authors, and that book changed my life.
Yeah.
It gave my life meaning because I used to question so many things about my existence. Like, why did I see the world differently than a lot of the people around me? Or why was I able to manifest things into existence just by thinking about them? I would think about things and then they would come to fruition. I didn't understand what was happening around me. I didn't understand the power or the energy that I contained within myself because, like many other people in this world, you're brought into society programmed. You're from a child into an adult, and until you realize who you truly are, you remember who you are, who God created you to be, you're programmed. You're programmed to believe in what society has sold you as your reality.
Right.
And I never believed it. I never believed in the
Don't
programming.
drink the Kool-Aid.
Right,
Yeah.
never. And I've always questioned what's in this Kool-Aid because while everyone is enjoying the taste of this Kool-Aid, I'm not.
Yeah.
And something's not right here.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the world much different. They're seeing it as black and white. I'm seeing it in color. And I don't understand. And I need to understand that. So I started searching. And through the process of me searching, I came across The Alchemist. And I read the book and it moved me. It changed my whole perspective. And it really provided some resolve for me because I just felt like an alien. I felt like I had crash landed on Earth like Superman, and I'm sitting here on Earth, and I don't fit in because I know that I look at things differently, and I see the world in a way that many people around me couldn't see at the time.
Right.
So I think in order to be able to move mountains in your life, because I talk about that too. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is, faith as small as a mustard seed. You can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and that mountain will move. Nothing will be impossible. I believe that because I have faced so many mountains in my life, and those mountains are things that the programmers in this world have deemed impossible to do. And yet I've been able to manifest into existence everything I wanted to do and move those mountains out of my way. But it took really understanding who I was, finding myself, finding my spirit, and not just finding my spirit, but understanding how to sustain my spirit. We live in a world where a lot of us want instant gratification. We want results today.
Right.
We're not willing to wait till tomorrow. Well, your spirit has to develop. When you've been programmed your entire life to think one way or to feel one way or to see things one way, there's a point where, you have to reconfigure that programming.
Right.
So in order to reconfigure that programming, you have to get to the core essence of your being, and understand, wow, like, how do I reshape my subconscious mind into looking at the world different?
Right.
And then, and only then, can one be able to truly wield the faith that is within all of us
Right.
into manifesting and calling forth what we see in our lives. And there's practical ways of being able to do that.
Right.
But I think first is a discovery stage. And whether that discovery stage means you read a book, there's several books I've read that have inspired me. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. I think we talked about that book the last time.
Yeah.
The Alchemist, the Surrender Experiment, all of those things are important. But I think to get to where you're asking specifically, it took me going through all those stages and then finally getting to a point where I realized, right, I was self-reflecting, and through the process of me self-reflecting, looking inside of myself from an unbiased perspective, right, and evaluating my choices and actions, I realized that, wow, I have been an obstruction to the flow of the universe.
Right.
And because I've been an obstruction to the flow of the universe, because as human beings, we want to be in control of everything.
Ego.
Yes, ego and pride. And
Which is real. We
So-
all suffer and struggle that fight and that internal battle with ego.
You do. And there's a saying, starve the ego, feed the soul. I had to learn that. And I learned that through the process of surrender. And until you can surrender and give this up and say, you know what? Your will is my way.
Yeah. This
Right?
is church.
And
Yes.
it's the truth, right? And even if you don't believe in God, even if you believe in just spirituality, or you have a God that maybe, you may identify with him differently than I do, it doesn't matter,
As I
because
say, the principles, if the law is the law, right? Whoever you like attribute it to,
yeah,
some things in the universe, they just work, so
it's true.
it can be Jesus, it can be Allah, it can be whomever,
Agreed.
Buddha, but it's just certain things that you put into our atmosphere, into our universe, and it works for you. So
Yeah,
it is
it's the divine
spirituality.
laws.
It's the divine laws of this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The divine laws of the universe are very real, and, unfortunately, we live in a society that doesn't teach this, because they understand the risk that it poses on a world that has been programmed for centuries to operate in a certain kind of way. So, of course, they don't teach you about faith. They teach you about hope.
Yeah.
Because if they give you hope, you think, oh, hope is good. And it is good for those that don't have hope. Hope is good. But hope is not enough.
Yeah.
But they don't teach you that, because hope is the next best thing to faith. And faith operates within a context of certainty. Hope, there's still some uncertainty within hope. You're hoping and you're wishing for something to be.
Yeah.
So you're still operating within the limited vocabulary of hope.
Yeah.
You're still like, maybe, and if I could, and I wish this would happen, and I really want this to happen, instead of, I'm going to make this happen.
Right.
This will happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to ensure that this happens. Operating from the context of faith.
And that is
where-
done.
Yes.
I'm just walking into it.
Walking by faith and not by sight. When you're walking by sight, that is, you're living through hope.
Yeah.
You are this hopeful individual, which is okay, because some people don't even have hope, so they need hope in order to elevate to faith.
Right.
But you must realize that hope is not a sustaining, you can't sustain through hope. You can sustain through faith, though.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, good is the enemy of best, or greater, one of the...
Yes, no, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Hope is good, but there's greater. There's definitely greater on the other
Absolutely.
side.
And it's important to realize that within your life. And in order to do that, you have to surrender. You have to give up that control that you feel like is necessary to move your life forward.
Yeah.
And by doing that, when you give up that control, I believe you give notion to the universe into being receptive to the things that you're seeking in your life, because it understands that you respect the divine laws of creation, the divine laws of the universe, the divine laws of sustainability and duality within our lives.
Yeah. And even just kind of surrender is kind of hands up, hands out, and you're opening yourself up to receive. And I think that's such a beautiful moment, and that's work to get there.
It is.
Because I think, like you said, intrinsically we're fighting to hold on, to fight for control, and like, I'm going to do this. Like, it's just a different mindset when you allow things to flow and you allow the universe to come and support you and like give you everything that you need in order every step.
Yeah, it's powerful.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm in the beginning stages. I said this last time.
Well, no, it's okay. I mean, because I was just having this conversation with a friend. I said, the first step is acknowledging and being able to self-reflect, looking at yourself from an unbiased perspective to evaluate your choices and actions, to understand, where am I at right now?
Right.
You know, where am I at in this place called life and on this journey of life? And where do I want to go? And are my actions and choices a reflection of the path that I'm seeking, that I need to go on in order to accomplish whatever it is I want in my life? And when you're able to do that, it's no longer about pride. It's no longer about ego. It's about the reality. It's about the realistic aspect of your dreams and aspirations.
This is so good. I don't understand. One thing I've had to realize is, you kind of the duality. You either operate in fear or in love, right? You either operate in this scarcity mindset or abundance. And that was something that I personally had to step outside of self and really evaluate. Like, even the simple things of like, how I was drafting emails, like, what was the energy that I was writing that in? How was that felt? Was I coming from it like anxious, like stressed, and like feeling like, again, scarcity, that there's limited resources or I have to have this right now, like trying to control it? Or was I allowing, like, coming from like, it's already there, like if it's either coming from this person or that person, I know it's going to happen, like I'm just waiting to walk into that, or I'm waiting for me to be in a better position to receive it. And I think, there's so many small things that we can change in our everyday lives that affect our atmosphere and, again, affect what comes to us. Again, what are we attracting? What are the energies we are putting out to receive that?
No, I absolutely agree with you. I believe that there's a duality within this universe, right? And that duality is one of light and darkness, right? But neither of them are good or bad, right? They don't exist within the context of how we identify these things as good and bad. They are both necessary for the continuance of our lives, of the universe, is this light and darkness. And that light and darkness can be applied to anything in our lives, right? And I always tell people, in order to get to the light, you have to go through the darkness. In order to appreciate the light, you have to appreciate the darkness. So we as human beings coin things and identify things as good and bad, but they're just experiences to get us to where we need to be in our lives.
It all works together.
Yes, and when you surrender to those experiences, like for instance, people like to say that my personal story of my childhood was bad. Like, oh my God, Antonio, that was bad. You were molested, you was abused, your parents went to prison, all of these things. But none of those experiences were bad. They were all necessary in order to shape me into the person I am today and to shape my mind and perspective of the world in order to move me to a place of where I needed to be able to sit right now on this couch with you today.
Right. Yeah, there's a quote, and I read it one day, and it stuck so clearly with me, and I can't remember it verbatim now, but essentially everything in our lives helps us get to the next step, helps us get to the next step. And I've like gotten such a new appreciation of the saying, count it all joy.
Absolutely.
Like,
Because it is. It's all
all
joy.
joy.
And and the reason why there is no bad, right? Because people say, what about murders and what about all these things? You know, we all operate within the divine consciousness of this world. It's one consciousness that we all operate in. That's why sometimes when I say things, you may resonate to them, or other people on Instagram may resonate to them and say, oh my God, is Antonio speaking to me? But it's not that I'm speaking to you, or this message was just specifically for you.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I'm operating within this one consciousness in which we're all pulling from.
Right.
So we're all connected to it. So there are never bad moments. There are experiences that have to happen. And because we have free will and free choice, unfortunate situations occur through those experiences, like crime, like murder, like these things that we coin as bad, right? But I believe, and I truly believe this within my heart, that if we are to truly surrender and understand that we all operate within this one consciousness, then we can't put negative energy into these moments and coin them as bad, because they will only keep us in a suppressive state from being able to propel our lives forward, because we're sitting and conjuring hate. We are not created to hate. That is not even a part of the essence of our being.
Yeah.
We are a being of unconditional love. And with unconditional love comes unconditional understanding, right? It's a duality of both. In order to be able to love, you also must be able to understand. The same way you love. So if you love and you have unconditional understanding, how can you see things as bad?
Right.
It's a conflict of interest. You can't. You know, it's about understanding why those situations are what they are and still pouring love into them.
Right. There's so much here. And I feel like I could talk to you for days. I feel like I just need to travel around and listen to everything you had to say, pour into the people. But I think it's really great for people to walk away, and that it doesn't seem like some frou-frou ideologies, but that they actually have some tangible takeaways of like, okay, well, what does this look like in my life? How do I transform my life? How do I even apply this to my business? So what would you say are 3 things that people can listen, hear this, watch this, and take away of like, okay, today, I'm starting today and transforming the way my life looks, the way my business looks, the spirituality, the energies that I put into this.
So this is what I believe, right? No matter what industry you're in, no matter what service you provide, no matter where you want to be in your life, right? At the core of all of it is sustainability. If you cannot sustain yourself, then you'll never be able to sustain any of these outwardly expressions that you may want to manifest within your life. Because if you're not internally sustained, then how can you ever sustain externally? How can you ever be able to thrive when you can't even thrive within yourself?
I'm sorry, I had to stop you. Because I have a new segment called Into the Blue. And so
I love that.
Thank you. So obsessions with my name are so next level right now.
I love that.
But it's diving into those conversations of mental health, wellness, spiritual health, physical health as an entrepreneur. Because I went through a time where I felt almost all of these emotions: isolated, depressed, stressed, anxious, and I literally, Michelle, was like crumbling, completely like shaking at night. Like it was crazy because I'm thinking about what I had to do, or like some goal, like timeline that I'm trying to meet, and everything else, the pressures of business, the pressures of life. And I had to step back and be like, I have to take care of me first, because if Michelle, if Blue is not okay, then I can't sit on the sofa and talk to anyone else. I can't get on any stage. I can't build any business. And so I think that's so key, and really like making sure you are okay first, because that's the most important job is you.
And I agree with you. And I think that we lose sight of that. we get so caught up in the momentary moments that we no longer live for where we want to go or who we want to be. We live for the right now, which is okay to be in the present. Excuse me. I think being in the present is important, right? Because it's a gift in itself. To be in the present of today is a gift. But you also have to be able to understand the necessities of your spirit. You have to understand how to sustain that so that you can get to tomorrow, so that you can move forward from the present into the future. So I believe three things that you're asking about, right? I believe through the art of sustainability, right? There's three things you can do. Faith is number one.
Yeah.
And within faith is the context of relinquishing all doubt and fear and being able to be receptive of truly walking by faith and not by sight. And your actions and reflections being a complete, everything in alignment with what you're seeking in your life through that faith, right? I say that's the first thing. The second thing is what I call a universal tool. And that universal tool is self-reflection, which is being able to look outside of yourself from an unbiased perspective and evaluate the choices and actions and to determine if they're in alignment with your purpose, your dreams, or aspirations.
Right.
And the second part of that is realization. Realizing the changes that need to be made so that you can begin to, third, actualize this into tangible existence. And the third, for me, faith, self-reflection, realization, actualization, and then surrendering. Once you've understood the pathway, it's surrendering to the force, to this unseen universal flow that is moving through our lives, and most of us are even unconscious to it, surrendering to it and understanding it and respecting it and allowing it to move freely in your life and open the doors and allowing you to walk through them. So those would be the three things I would say are super important for someone.
Yes.
Because you can apply that to anything. You can apply it to a business, a service, yourself, your spirit. And when you know how to master those tools, when life throws you lemons, you make lemonade. And as cliche as that may sound, it's the truth. Because life has thrown me many lemons. Many lemons. And if I didn't understand or master how to sustain my spirit, I wouldn't be on this couch with you. It would have been what they consider impossible.
I'm glad you made the impossible possible.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Right? Did I get that?
Yes, you did.
Oh my gosh, Antonio, again, the universe, I believe it was meant to be.
Divine.
It was divine.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yes.
I love that you got here. I'm glad that you were able to share. This is really transformational.
Thank you.
People being able to listen to this, having exposure to some of the books that you're reading and actually putting these things into practice, change lives. And so I'm excited. I thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I can only imagine what your life is going to look like, your impact is going to look like. So
thank you.
I'm so
I want to run for Congress.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Congress, what year?
Well, I'm thinking about running sometime in 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
So Antonio Brown for Congress 2020.
Yeah.
All right, we're campaigning.
Yes,
Cool.
and I want to implement the spiritual aspect of my belief system and really help inspire and elevate our people to truly remember who they are. Because we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten who God created us to be and the powers that lie dormant within us.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you, Antonio.
Yes, this is amazing.
Thank you. So good for my soul.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So good for my soul. Thank you.
Yes, this was awesome.
I hope you were inspired by this conversation on The Journey with Blue. Join me on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe on YouTube to continue the encouragement. And remember that whatever road you decide to take, the beauty lies within the journey. Until next time, Blue.